Good morning, everyone. Here we are at day 2. So, how is everyone doing with your activity from day 1? Did you have a few minutes just to observe what you're doing to already nourish yourself and pamper yourself? And how you can make some adjustments in your awareness so that you bring more valuing and love and caring to your body. So, good morning, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, Kim and Vivian and Caitlin. I'll just give you a couple of minutes for everyone to come on, or more people to come on before we dive in. So I just wanted to see how everyone was doing with day 1. So if you'd like to leave a comment of thumbs up or a heart that you did it, that you enjoyed it. Hey, Western Australia, Vivian. Good. Happy to have you here. So I want to also reiterate the importance of really staying with this class this week. It's only a week out of your full life. You can go back to all the other activities next week when we're done. But just really take the time this week to watch these videos and do the daily activities and really absorb what I'm teaching you, because all of the pieces fit together in a puzzle that work together to produce the end result of getting beyond sugar cravings. And that's why we're all here, right? So, hello, Cindy. Caitlin, I said hello to you. So, and also for all of you who do all of the activities each day this week, on Friday, then I will announce a special prize for those of you who did complete all 5 days. So make sure you do them and watch the video before I take it down. It's only up for 24 hours. So if you guys here now want to re-watch it and take notes or whatever, then you've got until this time tomorrow to do this video again. All right? So thanks for everyone again for all your participation, for being here. So today we're talking about the care and feeding of the right gut critters and the starvation of the wrong ones. So it's good to understand a little bit about the nature of our microbiome, in that they're all very opportunistic. There's thousands, hundreds of different strains and types of bacteria and yeast and microorganisms. And especially with Candida, we know that's really highly opportunistic, in that if other populations of bacteria die away from bad food, from antibiotics especially, if there's things that destroy a population of a bacterial strain, the other bacteria, and especially the Candida yeast, will take over that space. And if that continues over time, then Candida can really take hold and become like the majority. And at that point, it turns into an aggressive yeast that starts boring holes through the intestinal wall, gets into the blood and the interstitial fluids, and starts floating around and exploring other places in the body. And then before you know it, you have a yeast infection. So it's really important just to be mindful of the fact that this is what your bacteria do. So when the good ones that enhance health and help you digest your food, when they are compromised and their populations go down, other pathogenic ones take over. Okay? And then when that happens, the favorite food of the more pathogenic ones, and especially Candida yeast, is sugar. So their populations increase, and so they want to be fed, and so they send the signals to your brain to say sugar, 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 and then that's what sets you up for that downward spiral. Okay, does that make sense for everybody? Give me a thumbs up or a love or a 1, either one, to let me know that you're following what I'm sharing here. So, what is one of the biggest contributing factors as to why the environment will shift to favor the pathogenic microorganisms. I mentioned yesterday about the importance of attending to your internal environment, being aware of the type of environment that you're creating for your gut critters to live. And so this is one of the biggest pieces to determine what that is. So in an aerobic environment, that's when the pH balance is more towards neutral or even alkaline. And when an environment has lots of oxygen, which essential oils help do, bring oxygen to the cells. When there's an aerobic environment, that favors the bacteria strains that are health promoting, the kind that we want to help maintain our digestion, our immune system, the signals to the brain for how we're living and observing what we need best. Okay? In an anaerobic environment, the pH balance goes more towards acidic, and there's less oxygen. That is the type of environment that encourages pathogenic microorganisms and their growth. And when bacteria are in an anaerobic environment and the cells are in an anaerobic environment because they're not having the oxygen that they need, they shift their function to acclimate to their environment such that they use sugar for fuel. And that's one of the biggest factors that promotes tumor growth and sugar cravings. Okay? So keep that in mind when you're making food choices and with your thoughts and your feelings, like we were talking about yesterday, about how you feel about your body. And really start putting attention on the type of environment you're creating for your gut critters and your microbiome, okay? Because that's crucial. So, drawing from the wisdom that I learned from Don Tolman, I mentioned him yesterday. You'll want to go. So he was somebody that really wanted to know about what the cultures, the ancient cultures in the Western world and the Mediterranean areas did to take care of themselves. And one of the things that he found, which I found just fascinating when I read this, and it's just stuck in my mind, of the term nutrition or the word nutrition, the root of that word comes from a Latin term called nut, N-U-T, or nux, N-U-X. And what that means is that it's the seed or the point of light or the point of life. So you're thinking of it, seeding something to produce life. And so nutrition, the original definition of nutrition, is the process that the body does to bring in greater light, greater life force energy into the body, so that the cells and the microorganisms can receive that life force, that light, which enlivens them, which supports them in doing all their functions, which keep us alive. Okay? So in terms of that, then you really want to look at the quality of food that you're feeding your body. Is it food that's going to bring in greater life force, greater light, greater energy? Or is it a quality of food where the innate life force has been diminished or disrupted through all the processing, and therefore there's not the life force available in the food that your body needs? Okay? So this brings us to another crucial factor that's the source point for some cravings, in that if your body is deficient in minerals, especially other nutrients, vitamins, phytonutrients, things that the body needs, the raw materials the body needs in order to function and rebuild new tissue, that will also be presented to you or communicated to you in the form of sugar cravings. Okay? Chocolate especially is an indication that your body is missing certain minerals. Okay? Real high quality cacao nut, or the cacao bean that chocolate is made from, is really high in antioxidants and nutrients and minerals. It's considered a superfood. The problem is when it gets overly processed, there's a lot of chemicals added to it, too much heat, molds that grow on it, waxes and other fake stuff, that sugars that get put into it. Then the cacao bean becomes milk chocolate, like what we know of. That becomes more of a sugar problem food. Okay, so just start to become aware of and even do some research into the type of food you're eating. If you're going to have chocolate, then shift to having a higher quality chocolate, less processing, less sugars, and it's more cacao, so that you get the nutritional benefits of that bean rather than all of the sugars. Does that make sense? Give me a thumbs up. Say, yes, I got it, Lauralee. Hello, Adela. Did I say your name right? Thanks for tuning in. So when the body knows that it's not receiving the nutrients it needs, what kind of chain reaction does that set up? So the body knows it's missing some nutrients, and so it goes to the storage banks, often in the bones and other tissues, to pull out the reserves, the mineral reserves, the nutrient reserves that it needs in order to digest food, to deal with whatever foreign protein or whatever infection or thing that's going on. And if that continues for a long enough period of time, then the cell's function degenerates because it doesn't have the raw materials it needs. Then you open the door for inflammation to set in, for further degeneration of the tissues. When the cells divide, the daughter cells, the granddaughter cells, don't have the full capacity of functioning because they're weaker. And then you start having compromised immunity, your nervous system goes out of whack, there's inflammation, like I said, a lot of chemical changes start to happen, and then you're on the path to degeneration and disease. So we want to really head that off and make sure that overall you're moving in the direction of greater life, energy, light, life expression. Okay? Good morning, Dawn. Thanks for tuning in. So I wanted to also share with you a concept of first and second source nutrition. And this is another concept that I learned from Don Tillman, who learned it from all of the ancient cultures. So have you guys ever heard of what first and second source nutrition is? If you have, give me a thumbs up or a star or a like or something. So first source nutrition is when the sun shines down on plants and they do their chemical shifts and do whatever they do to form the sugars, to form the nutrients in the plants. That is known as first source nutrition. Through photosynthesis, then the plants do their thing and it produces the food that we eat. So when we eat that vegetable or that plant-based food, we're getting it's only one step away from receiving light or life force energy directly. Okay? Second source nutrition is when there's been a second step down process that happens before we receive that nutrition. So the sun gives light to the plants, they make photosynthesis, and then animals eat that plant to produce their muscle, grow their body. Then when that animal is killed and we eat the dead body of it, the muscles, the tissues of it, then that's known as second source nutrition because there's had to be another shift or change occur from when we receive the nutrition and from the original source, which is the sunlight. Does everybody follow that? So there's a step down process. So when we eat muscle tissue from animal, then what the body needs to do in order to access that nutrition, especially the amino acids for the protein, is it has to deconstruct that animal tissue, that animal protein, and then reassemble all of the amino acids needed to create muscles for our body. So that's a lot of work. Whereas when we eat straight plants, or as much plants as possible, the nutrients in the plants are a lot more easily assimilated, and the body's able to construct the amino acids much more quickly or more efficiently in order to construct muscle for our body. Okay? So that's, again, another reason to really pay attention to the quality and sourcing of your food, and going towards a more plant-based diet as much as possible. When you have a plant-based diet, then there's such a range of plants that are available, and a lot of them are known as superfoods, like goji berries, cacao nut, maca, chia seed, hemp seed, flax seeds. Blueberries, I think, are considered a superfood. There's a lot of foods that are considered to be superfoods because they're very high concentrated into a wide range of nutrients. So they've got a long nutrient profile, and there's a lot in them. So when we eat them, then we receive a lot more benefit than if we eat something that has less of a nutrient profile. Does everybody follow that? So you can do a little bit of research. Just type in a Google search, like the top 10 superfoods, and you'll probably recognize a lot of them. And so start adding them into your diet. You know, if you feel like some of your sugar cravings are because you're not eating enough nutrients and you're not getting enough nutrition, then start looking for superfoods. When I was making changes in my diet over time a few years ago, that's how I started making the changes of really adding in like a greens drink in the morning that then evolved into a protein smoothie drink where I'd put in kale and spinach and protein powders and some flax and chia and berries and fruits. So that's a really good way of getting dense nutrition and in a form that's very easy for your body to digest. Something that's liquid, like a smoothie or soup, doesn't take near as much energy to digest as it does to break down a steak. Okay? So when we're looking at nutrition of feeding our bodies, then it's about a mindfulness of how much life force you're giving your body and how much that contributes to creating an aerobic, oxygen-rich environment to support the populations of the healthy bacteria that you need to sustain your life. Okay? So the study of nutrition is a huge topic. I mean, I spent a couple of years studying it, and there's still some more to learn. But just be aware of you can do it simply. Just thinking of more plants. Dawn, yes, that's what Ninja Red is great for. Yes. Cindy. Yeah, you can do, let's see, frozen spinach and fruit with no sugar. Yes, with a lot of frozen foods, then they're harvested and then frozen right away, and so there's a lot of nutrients that are not lost as opposed to fresh produce. So that's one positive thing about frozen foods. And you, especially with fruits, make sure that there's no added sugar. Fruits have enough sugar as it is. You know, I especially like with raspberries or sometimes strawberries, I'll find frozen berries, find added sugar in some of those, and so I always have to look for a brand that does not have added sugar. Okay. So an acronym that I learned from, it's Dr. Jill Furman. Have any of you guys heard of him? Give me a thumbs up or a star if you have. He's written a lot and does a lot of lectures and talks in person and online about the nutritarian. He calls it the nutritarian diet, of really looking at plant-based eating that will support longevity, support a healthy weight, and a lot of energy. And so he came up with this acronym called G-BOMBs. And so I'll share this with you. This is an easy way of just to make sure that you're getting the kinds of foods that support longevity and a healthy gut microbiome. So it's called G-BOMBs. G is for greens, like leafy greens, chard, kale, the cruciferous vegetables, spinach, the spring mix, okay? And then beans, meaning legumes, lentils, black beans, kidney beans, red beans, garbanzo beans, that family of foods. O is for onions, like onions and garlic. M is for mushrooms, like the medicinal mushrooms or the little white and brown button mushrooms you find in salads and on pizzas. And then B is for berries, all kinds of berries, like goji berries, blueberries, blackberries, strawberries. And then S is for seeds, like nuts and seeds, like chia seed, flax seed, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, things like that. So, oh good. You've heard of G-BOMBs. So just write that down and just post it on your refrigerator somewhere and just keep it in mind or keep it in view so that you can think about, oh, am I eating good G-BOMBs today that help my gut, that give me the life force energy I need to run my body efficiently and to keep a healthy microbiome. Because when your body's fed and nourished and it's receiving the life force energy from your food, then that really goes a long way in diminishing the sugar cravings. All right? So yeah, I love acronyms. Yeah, it's just an easy way of keeping track of things that are helpful to do. Okay, one more concept and then I'll share with you the daily activity. All right, you guys ready? So think of a relationship dynamic that ends up being very toxic, very dysfunctional, often abusive. So when somebody goes in, the alpha and a woman, I'll just use a woman in this case because that's kind of what happens. When a woman starts going into that relationship, she may have an idea of what's normal and what feels appropriate and healthy and respectful. But then as the relationship develops and she gets further into it and becomes more mistreated, then she acclimates to that environment and she starts to feel like the mistreatment is normal. We've all seen this happen with people. And then she starts telling herself different stories about how she must deserve it, how this person is doing, so many good things for her, even though he beats up on her. There's all of that mental chatter that happens. So you can think of that process of getting deeper and deeper into a dysfunctional, abusive situation as the process that happens in your gut when the environment is deteriorating and going from aerobic, pH balanced, down to acidic, anaerobic. Because of the deterioration of the diet, the microorganisms start to change, more pathogenic ones start to come in, the yeast starts to shift into aggressive things, okay? So then the process of coming back out of that toxic, abusive relationship for the woman is also a process where she has to recognize, oh my gosh, this is really not healthy, and then starts to take steps to have the courage and the confidence to get out, to reach out for help, and then start reworking her mind talk and her emotions to recognize, wow, that really was not a healthy thing, and then to learn how to set boundaries and to recognize toxic behavior and what's good behavior, okay? So again, we've recognized that process, yeah? Give me a thumbs up if you have. So cleaning up or shifting the nature of your internal gut environment, again, is the same type of a process where you gradually turn the corner and clean things up, introduce better, more healthy things, more life force energy foods, things, so that your microbiome starts to shift to a more healthy, health promoting, beneficial bacteria. Okay? Yeah. Well, the analogy will stick in your mind so you can remember it. But just think of it, it's the same type of a process of going into an abusive relationship, coming back out, going into a health deteriorating, diseased state in your gut, and then coming back out of it to rebuilding the gut. Okay? And so nutrition plays a massively huge role in how you can do that. Poor nutrition takes you in, healthy nutrition will take you out. Okay? So think of that today. And so the activity I would like for you to do today is to start, or just to make a list and start observing. What are you eating today? Write down everything that goes in your mouth. How much drink, what types of drink, water, tea, juices, whatever your liquids you're drinking. And then write down what you had for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, any snacks. And then just at the end of today, look at the overall choice of foods for the day and choice of liquids. And then I want you to ask yourself what I call the golden question. And that is, with all of these things that you've fed yourself today, how much of those choices and foods are moving you in the direction of receiving greater nourishment, greater light, life force energy, and nutrition? Okay? Or how many of those choices led you into the opposite direction towards diminishing returns, towards less life force energy? Okay? To where you're depleting your body. And just notice and become aware. Because the change, in order to make change, you've got to create some type of a baseline to know what you're doing right now, where your starting point is. And so use today's activity as that baseline to say, wow, this is what I'm doing. I'm really kind of moving in a direction that I don't want to be going in. And so now understanding the things that I've shared to you today, then use that as to give you a broader understanding and perspective and reason for making different choices. The new choices are easier to make when you have a deeper understanding and a purpose behind what you're doing, rather than doing those choices coming from a place of self-punishment, of, oh, I am supposed to, or criticizing yourself if you don't. That's not a very good impetus for making you those new choices. So look at it from this greater, broader understanding, and then saying, okay, so now I understand what I'm doing to my body. So now I'm going to make a different choice and bring more plants into my diet, more superfoods. Okay? Following the G-bombs. All right? So with that, track that, and then post your findings of what you've experienced and some of the foods that you've eaten today. Post that in the thread of the post for today's activity that I will be posting in the group. All right? So, thanks, Dawn. Glad you liked that assignment. Any other questions, comments, or anything about what I shared today before we wrap up? Anything like a light bulb that went on? Any ahas? Look up understanding and purpose. Yeah. So, anything else? So with that, have fun with today's activity. Don't beat yourself up. Just simply become aware of what you're doing. And write it down and share with us in the group. And I look forward to your responses. Oh, thanks. You're welcome, Drew. Thanks for tuning in and being here. So again, just make sure that you do each of the daily activities and really participate in the class that I'm sharing with you today. It's for your benefit. And at the end of the week on Friday, then I will be sharing a special prize for all of you who do. Alrighty. Thanks so much for tuning in, and take care.